And for today's business news, we can go to Jameel Ahmad, Chief Analyst at GTC Global Trade Capital. Good morning, Jameel. Could you start by giving us an overview of the global markets this morning?
Well, this week, Oliver, has been completely different to last week, because last week we were talking about the return of multiple different all-time highs for the likes of the Dow and the S&P 500. But if you look at this week, we've had 3 straight days of losses. And for the Dow in particular, last night's losses were the worst day for the Dow in just over a month. And I think we're starting to now look into different reasons as towards why investors might be taking profit. Likely reason, because of the upcoming US elections. We should also take into account, though, that global economic data isn't exactly picking up, considering the interest rate cuts. That can also be seen in lower oil prices, and gold prices continue to hit new all-time highs above 2,700 US dollars. So I think that there's something deeper into this rather than just the election. I think we're also looking into a global economic slowdown, unfortunately continuing into the end of this year at least.
And the International Monetary Fund has been meeting this week. Can you talk us through what the key points from that meeting have been?
There's been a few different key topics that have been discussed. The good news is that the IMF are confident that the fight against inflation, which of course has been a global battle since 2022, the Russian-Ukraine crisis, that seems to be won. Inflation's set to come down towards 3.5% next year on an annual level worldwide, compared to nearly 6% this year. So that shows that even more progress will be made in 2025. However, there was some concerns about risk for the global economy, and that seemed to be an indication that we might see a return of trade tariffs or trade wars having an impact on global economy, which again, I think seeps back into this upcoming US election that's set to take place.
And what are the key trends and data that we should look out for later this week?
From an economic macro standpoint, actually the economic data is thin, but we're going to be watching the BRICS summit, because the BRICS has taken a more influential role as it adds more members into that group that started off with 4 and then 5. But we cannot forget that the US elections now are in under 2 weeks. And 2 weeks from now, who knows how the global outlook's going to look, the world outlook, and the market outlook. So I think investors are going to be watching and getting a bit more nervous now as that clock sharply ticks to the November 5th US presidential elections.
Thank you very much for that, Jameel Ahmad, Chief Analyst at Global Trade Capital.